And what about others? You can just type a message. Okay, so in the last class, we have discussed about how to make use of input, how to send the input, and how to receive input and how to send output record. But in that case, I have provided only single parameter as input. So based on single input parameter, we could get output record. Based on single input parameter, we could get output record using getEntity method. But in today's class, what I want to do is, so I want to use multiple input parameters. I want to use multiple input parameters under getEntity method. So if you want to use multiple input parameters under getEntity method, you can see in the last class I've created one entity type. In the last class I've created one entity type here. In that particular entity type, you can see there are some fields, but there is only one key here. Say for example, I want to use first name also as input. I want to use first name also as part of input to this particular service. So you can select that particular, you can also select that particular key field here. So now as a developer, we can pass multiple inputs to this particular OData service because we have selected first two fields as key fields here. Now you can first open OData project in SCGW. After that, choose your entity type and enable user ID, comma, first name as key fields. I want to use multiple inputs, so you have to enable. If you want to use multiple inputs, you have to enable multiple key fields here. That is compulsory. Otherwise, it won't accept multiple inputs. So after doing this, what we need to do? I can say we have changed this property. That means now we made some changes in the metadata. We have enabled first name also as a key field, so that means there is some change in metadata. So whenever there is a change in metadata, you need to regenerate runtime objects here. You have to regenerate runtime objects here. So you can select that. So now you can see MPC class, DPC class will be regenerated again. So that means the metadata will be regenerated, and you can also observe that here. So I'm just going to MPC class here, and you can see there is a define EMP method. That is a method auto-generated, but inside that method, you can see the metadata will be updated. Something like now you can see, if you closely observe this particular auto-generated coding, earlier only user ID was a key field. Earlier, user ID is the key field, but now you can see first name is also a key field. So that is how the metadata is updated inside MPC class. Inside MPC class, when you regenerate runtime objects, the metadata gets updated. So you can see that here. Two fields are key fields now. That means user can provide multiple inputs for executing getEntity method. So you don't change that code, don't try to change that code, but as a developer, you have to go to DPC extension class here. You have to go to DPC extension class. Under DPC extension class, in the last class, day before yesterday, we have implemented some code inside getEntity method. We have implemented some code inside getEntity method, so you can double click that method. So this is a code which is written earlier. Now you can see here, first of all, let me write a simple note. Whenever we change properties in entity type, then we need to regenerate runtime artifact. So it will not regenerate everything. It will just regenerate MPC class and DPC class only, not extension classes. When we regenerate runtime artifacts, only MPC class, DPC class will be regenerated, not the extension classes. And I can say the metadata will be updated inside MPC class. Just notice that point. So technically these things will happen when you change the properties in entity type. Now what you can do is you can go to data provider extension class and you can open getEntity method, which we have already implemented. But I want to use multiple key fields here or multiple input fields. Then what you can do is you can take one more work area here. Something like work area key tab 2. You can use type /IWBEP /s underscore mgw name value pair. I've added one more work area. There are several techniques, but okay, in different examples we'll understand different techniques. So I want to read the second input field also while executing the service. So you can use read table statement, and you can get the input values from your IT key tab internal table. One or many input values will come from IT key tab here. IT key tab is an internal table. It contains fields, or I can say contains all the input values given by user. And don't forget, IT key tab is already a standard parameter for this get entity method. It is already a standard parameter for get entity method here. You can see that. IT key tab. You can see this. Now, it can contain one or many input key values. So you can use it into work area. Something like work area key tab 2, and the second one will be at index. And then in where clause you can use like this. And for example, you can use first name is equal to work area key tab hyphen work area key tab 2 hyphen its value. That's it. So capture the second input value and pass it to where clause, and ultimately according to this where clause the record will go to ER entity. According to the where clause the record will be transferred to front end using ER entity. So don't forget that. So in the last class I've already told you the use of ER entity. So let me activate now. So let me give the latest code in your notes. Let me copy this. Open DPC extension class and double click get entity method and implement the below code. Double click get entity method and implement the below code. So that is the code I've updated just now. So the most important point is IT key tab is an internal table which holds one or many input field values. IT key tab is an internal table which holds one or many input field values received from front end. It will be received from front end apps. Let me repeat. IT key tab is an internal table parameter which holds one or many input values received from front-end applications. The actual input values will come from front-end. So in the program, you can use it for further functionality. And as I told you in the last class itself, ER entity is to send output record front-end app. It is to send output record to front-end app. So just you can activate now. You can save and activate DPC extension class. Then what to do is the service is already registered in the last class. So directly you can go to gateway client. I made changes in the existing service. So directly you can go to gateway client. Test the service from gateway client. So let us see now how it works. I'm going to, or it is already registered. I can go to gateway client here. And before fetching the data via OData service, I want to see which records are available in database table. Just let me go to S11 once. I'm just opening my database table. So there are some records here. Say for example, think like this. So I want to fetch, for example, 1052 Ramesh record or 1003 Vijay record or something like Satish record. I want to fetch specific record based on key field values. So how to do that? How exactly we need to use the syntax in executing the service? Syntax is very important. You can see now I can provide our entity set. But remember one very basic point. Whenever you change the metadata, don't directly test in gateway client. Whenever there is a change in metadata, what you do is, first of all, try to go to metadata cleanup from both the systems. So service is developed 2 days back or day before yesterday. Now we made some changes. Service is developed day before yesterday and today we made some changes. So what happens is, so cache will maintain the old metadata. Cache memory will maintain old metadata. So that's the reason why it is recommended to clean up this cache so that it will reload the latest metadata. Service is developed day before yesterday. We made some changes today. So cache memory will maintain the old metadata. So to inconsistency, to avoid inconsistency, better to clean up the metadata so that it will reload the latest metadata. So that's the reason why we use this option. This option is important whenever you keep on making changes, and this is recommended. Otherwise, you'll get inconsistent results. So first, let me do that, and just metadata is successfully deleted. Just click on continue. After that, you can provide your entity set name. But in entity set, whenever there are multiple input values, then you have to use like this. User ID is the first input equal to, you can provide 1003, comma. For second input field, you have to use first name equal to something like Vijay. So let me check here. So that is, you have to pass it within the brackets. So whenever you pass something in the brackets, definitely it is going to execute getEntity method. That is how framework is designed. It is guaranteed to execute getEntity method whenever you pass input values within the brackets of entity set. Let me check whether it works or not. So you can see now we are able to get that particular record, user ID 1003, first name Vijay. And let me check, let me fetch another record, for example, 1052. And I just want to fetch, for example, Ramesh. Ramesh record I want to fetch. So you can see now we are able to get 1052 with Ramesh. So I mean to say, whenever you pass something in brackets with multiple fields or one or many fields, definitely getEntity method is guaranteed to be executed. So first of all, let me write some important notes here. Whenever we make changes in metadata, it is recommended to clean up cache memory from both systems. it is recommended to clean up cache memory from both systems. So why we have to do this? This is to overcome inconsistent results. This is just to overcome inconsistent results. So now let me the next point. So this is how we have to pass the input. While testing the service, what you need to do is provide something like this as an entity set name and is the first field here and its first value. You have to use comma and second field equal to its value. So that is how you have to test the service. But frankly speaking, these values will come from the front-end applications like UI5 and Fiori. As a developer, in order to test the service, we have hard-coded the values here. But when we design the front-end applications, these values will come from the front-end screens like UI5 or Fiori or whatever. But this tags. Entity set, field 1, value 1, comma, field 2. So that's the approach you have to use. Now, let me check what exactly is happening. What exactly is happening in the background? I want to check that by using a breakpoint. So just observe here. So let me go to DP definition. Just enable a break inside get entity method. So you can see here, I just want to put a breakpoint on select query here. I want to put a breakpoint on select query, but I want to know what exactly is coming to IT key tab. So you can go to gateway client, then try to execute the service. So I'm providing 1003 Vijay as first name, and let me execute again. So as I told you in the background, ABAP debugger will be opened here. It will open ABAP debugger. Don't expect a separate debugger for OData services. OData services are nothing but ABAP services in SAP environment. So it automatically opens ABAP debugger. Okay, so please remember that. But I want to know what exactly is coming to IT key tab. So you can go to table section here. Under table section in debugger, you can provide that IT key tab. And you can see this is how the values are captured. So user ID is one of the input with 1003. First name is second input with Vijay as a value. So whatever we provide in our gateway client here, so definitely those values it is capturing inside IT key tab. So please notice that. And if you want to come out of that screen, just press F8. Let me go to this and just press F8. Then it will display that particular record. So that is how you can test it. But now, after enabling multiple input fields, if you try to test like this, what happens now? Let us see here. For example, if I test like this, what happens? So user ID is 1052, but I'm not using another input value here. I'm not using another input value here. I'm just using a single input and let me test it. Okay. I need to change this URL. Let me change it. I want to change this URL, for example, 1052. So on executing, you can see here, it is clearly saying there is an invalid key predicate. It is clearly saying that there is an invalid key predicate. So you have enabled multiple input key fields, but from the URL, you are just providing a single field. So that is against the rule. That is the rule. So that's the reason why you'll get the error. So when you enable multiple fields, provide multiple field values. So of course, there is no record with this, but there won't be any error. There won't be any error here. You can see it is saying that resource not found because there is no record with this combination. If I use like 103, so there is a record with that combination, so definitely it will display. So it will display that. So this is going to display the below service URL. Will display error because we are passing single input field value, but gateway server is expecting two input field values. That's the reason why you'll get error here. So the above syntax is the right syntax. So that is a technique you can use. Now let me explain one option here. Say for example, I want to fetch multiple records by making a where clause more dynamic. I want to fetch multiple records by making a where clause more dynamic. For example, think like this. I want to use requirement So my requirement is I want to provide entity set. If I provide entity set, then I should get all the records. To get all records, I can provide like that. And if I use like this, for example, entity set, then question mark dollar filter, question mark dollar filter equal to user ID EQ, something like 1003. Then I should get that specific record. And not only that, I can use something like AND condition also inside a filter. For example, think like this. I want to use entity set with question mark dollar, something like filter equal to user ID EQ 1003. and you can use AND operator while testing. Under filter, you can use AND. For example, country also should match with something like India. So here to fetch record based on user ID and country. And not only that, you can also use greater than, less than related syntax also. You can use less than, greater than, that type of syntax is also possible. So you can see, for example, some 50,000, one record is okay. So think like this. This is an entity set, question mark dollar. I can use filter equal to, for example, salary is greater than GT. GT means greater than. You can use these operators while testing the service. Greater than, for example, 50,000. And you can use greater than 50,000 and salary less than something like 70,000. Something like that. Not only that, you can also use or condition here, and you can use or, you can use equal, EQ, less than. You can use all these operators. Remember that here. Less than, equal to. LE. LE means less than, equal to. GT greater than, GE. GE means greater than, equal to. And you can use LT, less than, equal to. GT greater than, LT less than, equal. And here it's like greater than, equal. Is just greater than. Sorry, this is just less than. And similarly, you can use like GT, that is greater than. And you can use like or, you can use and inside your OData service URLs for executing your service. And you can use EQ. Just EQ. You can use it for equal. LE, GE, LT, GT, EQ, OR, AND. So all these type of operators you can use while testing your OData service. But my intention, my requirement here is I want to make my select statement more dynamic. My select statement should respond to a single field, and my select statement also should respond to multiple fields with and or as well as different operators. So my select statement should respond to all type of operators, and it should respond to many fields. So I want to make my select statement more dynamic. So in that case, you can use like your filter. Developing OData service with filter option. So if you want to develop OData service with the filter option, then what you need to do is if you want to develop OData service with filter option, the main point is you need to capture this particular filter string. In first case, filter string is blank. In second case, filter string is user ID equal to 1003. In third case, filter string is user ID 1003, country India. And in the fourth case, salary greater than 50,000, salary less than 70,000. So these are nothing but filter strings here. According to technicalities, I can say this is a blank filter string. So this is a filter string here. In general, we consider them as filter strings. So user will provide the values from front end, but as of developer is concerned, in order to test the service at OData level, you need to make sure that you're capturing this entire filter string. You have to make sure that you're capturing this entire filter string, and that is possible. And that is possible when you go to get entity set method. And in get entity set method, there are some parameters here. And one of the main parameters is you can see IV filter string. And don't forget, IV filter string is an importing parameter. So that means it can receive the data. IV filter string is one of the input parameter or importing parameter to capture all the filter strings. And if you want to send output request to front end, get entity set method will use each entity set parameter here. So now I'm going to use these two parameters, IV filter string to capture the filter string, and I'm going to use ET entity set to send output records to front end. So, for example, think like this. You're developing OData web service. I want to implement the code inside get entity method, entity set method now. In get entity set method, you can make use of IV filter string to capture the filter values, and you can execute your salary based on your requirement. And ultimately, you have to send the data to 10 by using each entity set parameter. So this is how it looks like. So the input will come from, that means filter string will come from front end. So as a developer, you can receive inside get entity set method. After that, you execute your select query according to filter string and send your output records to front end. You execute your select query according to requirement and try to send output records to front end. So this is what we are going to do now. So let me write a simple note. For get entity set method, there are two important parameters. I'm talking with respect to this scenario. Two important parameters. One is IV filter string. Second one, ET entity set. And you know, filter string captures the filter string as input from front end. And the purpose of ET entity set and this is to send the output records to front end applications. So this information is important for this scenario if you want to write the code in get entity set method. So let me do that now. So right now I'm in get entity set method, and let us redefine this method. Click on change, go to get entity set, redefine that method. And what you can do is you can directly implement some code here. For example, select star from, for example, Z user info table, into some corresponding fields of table, that is ET entity set. ET entity set is our output parameter, but it is like your internal table. ET entity internal table. So directly database set is a table, internal table type of parameter. I want to use like a where class where you can provide IV filter string here. IV filter string, that's it. So this IV filter string is going to substitute the complete filter string is provided by the developer while testing the service. Whatever you provide here after entity set, that is considered as a filter string. So that is captured by IV filter string parameter. And that we are trying to use as it is in our coding inside a where class. So this where class is dynamic now. We are not using user ID or country or salary or first name like that. We are just using a generic where class. So that is how you can activate now. You can activate now and let us test it. Okay, first let me copy that code for your reference. Data provider extension class, then redefine get entity set method and implement code. So this is the code, just a select statement with IV filter string. So the service is already registered, so you can directly go to gateway client and test the service. Service is already registered, so directly go to gateway client and test the service. So let us see how it works. I'm going to gateway client. And here you can see now I'm providing entity set. What is our entity set? EMP set is our entity set. EMP set is our entity set. So when you directly provide entity set without any filter, definitely it will execute get entity set method, and it is going to bring all the records here. You can see 1003 Vijay and 1004 Raju, 1006 is also Raju. So like that, it will fetch all the records here. 1004-5 Kiran, 1005 so Ramesh. So I mean to say, whenever the filter is blank, we are just providing entity set with filter blank. So it will fetch all the records. Now say for example, I want to fetch record based on some filter. For example, think like this. You can use question mark dollar filter is equal to, for example, user ID EQ 1003 and okay, you can use 1003. Let me test what happens here. So you are getting that record. Getting that record. Now, say for example, if I use country EQ, let me check with India here. Just country equal to India. So okay, you can see country equal to India. Let me execute. So now you can see there are several records with country India here. There are several records with country India and it is fetching only those specific records. So I mean to say it is executing get entity set method now. It is executing get entity set method and is trying to execute our functionality. And get entity set method is capable of sending single or multiple records. Get entity set method can send 0, 1 or many records based on the condition what you use in your select statement. For example, let me try this. Salary greater than, for example, 50,000. So you can see there is a record with salary greater than 50,000. Greater than equal to. So you can see salary greater than 50,000 and plus salary greater than equal to. I used equal to and that's why you'll get those records. So, and moreover, let me use AND operator here. Let me check with that. For example, user ID EQ 1003 and I want to use, for example, country EQ India here. So I'm using AND operator. I'm not expecting error as per our rule. So let me try here. So there is no error. So this type of syntax will work. User ID EQ 1003 and we are using AND operator here. Country equal to India. So all these things will work in your filter option. But let me tell you what exactly is happening in the background. I want to know what exactly is happening in the background. So just let me put a breakpoint here. You can see now get entity set. Inside that, I want to put a breakpoint. I just want to put a breakpoint and I want to know what is coming to this IV filter string. I want to trace out what exactly is coming to IV filter string. So let me run the service now with this filter. So it opens ABAP debugger. It opens ABAP debugger and you can see so you can see here IV underscore filter underscore string. I told you that is a parameter and you can see that very clearly here. This is how it is getting the value. If you closely observe in debugger, you closely observe in debugger, you can see IV filter string is able to capture whatever we provide from gateway client. User ID equal to 1003, country equal to India. So whatever we provide from gateway client, so IV filter string is capable of receiving if we use question mark dollar filter. If you use question mark dollar filter, so whatever is available after filter, this IV filter string will capture automatically. That is how framework is designed. But in genuine, in practical, I can say these values will come dynamically from the front end. This 1003 or India, so these values we are going to send from the front end. Okay, but at present for testing, this is the procedure for testing. So let me go back to our service, so you'll get that specific record. Okay, now let me give some more clarity here. Something like entity set name question mark dollar. Whenever you provide like this with filter, framework will execute like get entity set method. If I use like this also, it will execute. If I just use entity set, in that case also, it will execute. Framework will execute get entity set method. And say, for example, think like this. Slash entity set name question mark search. Question mark search. In tomorrow's class, we are going to discuss that. Question mark search. Then tomorrow's class we'll discuss about that one. But in this case also, it is going to execute. Your framework will execute get entity set method itself. And similarly, if I use like this, entity set with something like question mark, then dollar select. In that case also, I can say framework will execute get entity set method here. But in which situation get entity method will be executed? I told you, if you use like this entity set in the bracket, for example, if I provide 1003, so in that case, framework will execute get entity method. And similarly, entity set name, you can also use like this, user ID equal to 1003. You can also use this type of syntax, but ultimately framework executes get entity method. And if you are using multiple inputs, then you have to use comma, then for example, first name equal to some name. So in this situation, framework will execute get entity method. So that is a behavior which you need to notice to understand the framework. So let me tell you here, filter is a keyword, search is a keyword, select is a keyword. Filter is a keyword, search is a keyword, select is a keyword for executing our OData services. And you can see, let me tell you one important things. So in real time, here you can see as of now, if the operation is successful, you're getting a status code 200. When the fetch operation is successful, you're getting status code 200. So the status codes, HTTP status codes, which is having 2xx, then they are for successful messages. So if you are using a status code XX, whenever you get that 2XX or 200, 201, 202, 203, they are for successful messages. That means the methods are properly executed. So let me tell you here, when service is executed, I mean to say when OData ABAP service is executed, so the framework may throw or may display following HTTP status codes. The framework may display following HTTP status codes, like HTTP with status code. You can see something like with 1XX, that means 101, 100, 101, 102, 103, something like that. And it also may display some HTTP status codes with something like 2XX, and it may display some status codes with something like 3. So it will be within this here. Say for example, if you want to get more information about this, at present I can say, in the coming classes we'll understand in detail, but at present I can say status code with 2XX, 200, 201, 203 or 204, they are for successful execution of your OData services. At present, just remember this. Successful execution definitely will get status code with starting with 2. And if you want to, say for example, if you want to do some R&D, because in real time you may get any status code with 1XX, 2XX, 3, 4, 5XX. So you may get any status codes like this. So how you will resolve these type of things? How you will resolve? So the most important thing is HTTP status codes. These are fixed status codes. For a specific problem, there is a specific solution. For a specific status code, there is a problem. There is a problem. For that problem, there is a status code defined. But for that, definitely there will be some solution. So any web application or any service which runs on HTTP protocol. So I mean to say our OData ABAP services will accept, will send or receive data via HTTP protocol. So please remember that whenever you are using internally HTTP protocol, so these are the status codes you can expect. Not only OData service, let me tell you, any application whichever is using any web application or any application whichever is using HTTP protocol, any framework or any application whichever is using HTTP protocol, then definitely you can expect the status codes from 1XX, 2XX, 3XX, 4XX and 5XX. So these are fixed here. Please remember that. So now you can see, one second. Let me just open Google Chrome. So you can see, for example, I want to know more information about these HTTP status codes. I told you HTTP protocol is the very old protocol. I mean to say, these are very common protocol which every web application is using. So before you use this, many people in this world might have got this type of problem. So definitely you'll get more information here. HTTP something like status codes, something like 1 or something like 2x here. So you can see, you'll get some information here that will help you to resolve the problems. So you can see here, it is clearly saying this is 1xx related errors, and you can see 2xx, here you can see 1xx related status codes is for just providing the information. And you can see something like 2xx is for successful messages. Record created, record deleted, or record is fetched, something like that. Messages will be based on 2xx. And you can see here something like redirecting from one URL to another URL, or the resource is not found. So something like that may happen, but 3xx are related to redirection of these URLs, or there is no record or something like there is no particular file or there is no particular resource which you are trying to fetch. In that case, definitely you can get these 3xx errors. And you can see here something like, you can see here 4xx related errors are related to client errors. 4xx errors are related to client errors. That means the developer, or while testing a service, the developer may make a mistake while testing the service, so then they can get some 4xx errors. While testing a service, if you are providing some wrong URL, then definitely that is a problem from the client. So definitely you'll get some errors with 4xx. For example, let me try here. Intentionally, I'm providing something like this. According to our latest service, this is not meaningful now. According to the latest service, this is not meaningful because we have used 2 inputs, but we are providing single input. So according to that service, there is a problem. Now you can see it's clearly throwing 400 message here. According to our service, this is not valid now because the service is expecting multiple inputs in the brackets, but you are providing single input and the status code. So it will throw 400 messages because it is a problem with you. That means it's a problem with the developer, or the problem may be with the end user. So problem with end user or problem with the developer, then definitely you'll get 4xx errors. They are nothing but client-side errors. So now you can see not only that. Okay, let me go to this. You can see here something like you can see 5xx. 5xx errors are totally, we call it as server-side errors. That means you are giving the right input, but server is unable to find that record, or the server is unable to do the task due to some server problem, due to network problem, due to database problem, whatever may be the situation. If there is any problem with the server, then you can expect some error codes based on 5xx. You are giving the right input, but server failed to execute the service because of database problem, or because of gateway problem, or because of some internet problem, or whatever. So anything whichever is related to server, then definitely we call it as 5xx errors. So you can see internal server error, bad gateway, service unavailable, gateway timeout, version not supported. So these are all server specific errors. So me tell you here. 1XX, that is for information, that is for providing information, general information. 3XX is for redirectional, and this is for client side, client errors we call it as, and 5XX we call it as server errors. So now the person who is working on OData services, the person who is working on UI5 theory development, everyone should read this particular complete page so that you can easily resolve the problems in the future in real time also. Very simple. Just by reading the statement, you can easily understand what went wrong, what is the solution for that error. So this page is very important for people who are working on any web technology or who is working on OData services. So please notice that. If possible, you can directly go to this one. For more information on HTTP status codes, refer the below link. So I'll just try to stop for today. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me now. Hello students, are you able to follow today's class? Are you understanding the concepts?
Yes, sir. So Praveen this side. Shall I go ahead now?
Yeah.
My first question is like, do we always need to have a key fields for this input parameter?
Don't understand. Key field is not like a primary key field here. Key field means it is an important field which will take the input. That is the meaning in OData service.
Okay, so we can have duplicates also then.
While passing the input, how many inputs you want to provide? So that is nothing but a key field here in OData service. You're getting my point?
Okay. Yeah, I got it, sir.
So
And
the key field in OData is not related to a primary key field in the database level. That primary key field database level is different from this one.